Hello, Charizard for the win here. We're back in the sewers for the final installment of my first season review of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles TV shows, plural. This is, did I say Charizard for the win? This is Charizard for the win, and now we're talking about the 2012 series. I'll try not to talk too long for this one because this will probably be the longest video. I was a little skeptical at first about this one because of the 3D animation. I wasn't sure if it was going to look that good. I've seen most anime shows these days tend to use this style of animation for some reason. I don't know why they don't like regular animation, but so I was kind of afraid it was going to look really choppy and stuff like that, but it looks really, really good. They did an excellent job with it, and that's mostly because it's all stylized and they make it look just like a comic book. A lot of the backgrounds aren't really that 3D. They look just regularly drawn. And then the turtles are 3D, but they kind of move around through this sort of 2D animation. And for the most of it, it looks like a comic, and it looks really great, actually. Like the theme song is wonderful. The visuals, at least, look great. They have it very stylized to show different things. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, in the 2003 version, they changed the turtles' eyes. In the original, they had regular-looking human eyes, but in the 2003, they just made their eyes white, kind of like Batman. I like that version better, for the most part, because it looks more like, they look more like superheroes, and they look more menacing. I don't know, the eyes just look kind of silly, I think, which is fine for that version, the original show, but in the 2003 one, they were going more darker, so it made sense. In this version, it kind of switches between them. Usually, for the most part, they have eyes, but sometimes it'll actually have just the white slits, which I think look cooler. In any case, it switches between them a couple times. In the theme song, the actual song is the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle song from the 80s, but remixed, and then they added, most of it is just a rap. So, obviously they're trying to, appeal towards younger kids, which is fine. Oh, look how cool the Turtles are, they have a rap. Yeah. But, they do a good job of appealing to the older audience as well. I'm shaking the camera because I'm cold. I don't know why I'm outside. In any case, it's still a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed. It looks awesome. It looks really good, and it's not really that 3D of animation. It's more stylized to look like drawings, which is pretty cool. So the plot is a little more complicated in this one because what they do is they combine ideas from the comics, the 1987 show, and the 2003 show, and bring it all together. And it's really, I think, really, really great. The first couple episodes were introduced to the Turtles, and they, like the 2003 show, they improved their characters. They give them even more distinct personalities, which is great. Also, the cast is great. I want to mention the cast right now. At least the ones I know. So, Sean Astin plays Raphael. That's pretty cool. If you're a fan of the Teen Titans show, Beast Boy plays Michelangelo, which is perfect casting. They're basically the same character. Mae Whitman, who was in Avatar, The Last Airbender, who played Katara. In this, she plays April O'Neil, which works really well, because in this version, April is like a teenager. Then I don't know who plays Splinter, but the Shredder is that one guy who does a lot of animation and has a really deep voice, and he sounds badass. And also Lex Luthor, the guy who voiced Lex Luthor, plays one of the villains as well. I think that's all the main casting that's really good. Yeah, that's about it. But, yeah, they did a good job with the cast, at least. And this one is some great names in there. So, the Turtles are all very unique in this version. Leonardo wants to be this really great leader, and he's learning how to. What I like in the first episode is Splinter's like, oh, you'll need someone to lead. And then both Leonardo and Raphael want to lead. And I really like the rivalry in this show. It's a lot of fun to see. and Leonardo ends up being the leader. But what's cool is Splinter says, I could have picked any of you to be the leader, but I decided to choose you, and you pulled it off, so good job, kind of thing. And it's really great to see how Splinter teaches all these turtles to do things. Michelangelo is very, very funny because I think, one, because he's played by the guy who played Beast Boy. He's really funny, does a great job and then, he just has a lot of funny stuff to say. The writing is also better. The jokes are more clever. And then Raphael, I think he's okay. I don't like him as Sean Astin does a good job and everything, but I think the Raphael from the 2003 series is a little bit better. Also, Donatello, they do a really good job with him. He's probably the best character in this version of the show. Yes, he does do machines. He does build things. But they make that part of his personality, actually, instead of just something he does. This version, he is more of he's more of a nerd. That's like he's kind of nerdy. Like he knows all these different facts about things and stuff like that, as well as he tries to build things. And then the other thing they did with him is they made him have a crush on April. April, who is sort of a teenager, ends up hanging out with the Turtles because her dad was kidnapped by the Krang. The Krang, who are like the Utroms, but called Krang. They're more like the Utroms from the 2003 show, but they call them the Krang, so it's kind of a combination. There's lots of other ideas like that, too. Cold. Okay, so Donatello has this crush on April, and it's really great because you know they can't really be together because Donatello's a turtle. Like, they can sort of have a relationship, but not the same way two humans would, kind of thing. But it really just adds this depth of character to Donatello, because before this, he didn't really have a whole lot to him. And, yeah. It's done well. They did a good job with it. So I really like what they did with Donatello. Now there's a couple other things they do with the characters, like Raphael has this pet turtle. I don't get it. He's already a turtle. It's weird. I don't like it. Sorry. But Leonardo watches this show that's a spoof of Star Trek, and it's friggin' hilarious. So that I thought was great because he's inspired by the show to become a great leader, kind of thing. And that's really cool. Now, for most of the episodes of the show, Splinter just teaches them how to be better ninjas, how to be better people, or better ninjas mostly. But he teaches them all these cool lessons. In every episode, they learn something. And it really, what the show does really, really well is they feel like actual teenagers. They make mistakes. They slack off. They want to party sometimes, but they don't want to be serious. They're learning who they are. They learn different things from Splinter, and sometimes they're just hanging out, and it feels like actual teenagers. Also, when they're like arguing and stuff like that, and just bickering or just debating about different things, they feel like teenage brothers, because brothers don't always get along perfectly. Like in the original show, in the 2003 show, Leonardo would just be like, alright, we gotta defeat the Shredder, yeah, let's do it. And then they'd all be like, yeah, we're gonna defeat the Shredder, and that's about it. A little bit in the 2003 one, Raphael would be like, no, we have to like fight stuff, and Leonardo would be like, no, it's too risky and stuff like that. So it was a little bit there, but in this one, Leonardo and Raphael really have this great rivalry. Raphael is just kind of a jerk to everyone, but then Leonardo's like, no, we have to do it like this. Raphael and Leonardo, they actually like have them training, and they have them fighting against each other and stuff. Raphael actually beats Leonardo a couple times, and that's great to see that Leonardo isn't actually necessarily the best one, just the best one to lead. And then, yeah, you have Donatello explaining what kind of technological stuff they need to do. Michelangelo, I love what they did. One of the things they did with Michelangelo is, like, whenever they meet a bad guy or they build some cool machine, Michelangelo is like, I have to name the things that we come across. So he names all the villains really cheesy things and stuff like that, but it really fits his personality. It makes sense why they would call them that, because Michelangelo would. One episode they did, which I thought was great, what they did with Donatello, is has a little bit more time trouble fitting in because he's kind of a nerd and stuff. And one thing they do great is they make an episode about him being like, man, you guys have great weapons. All I have is a stick. It friggin' sucks. That's actually an episode, and it's great. Because then Splinter's like, okay, you can try and use a different weapon if you want. So he builds this robot and stuff. It's kind of cool. But then eventually he realizes he needs to use the staff because it's not really about what weapon you use. It's about how you use it. And different lessons like that are really, really cool. Okay, I'm running out of battery, so I'm going to stop now and continue this in at another take when I have more power. Whoa, we're in my room. How did that happen? Well, let's just continue talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Alright, so, yes, I forgot to mention this earlier. In the theme song for the 2012 series, at the end of it, they replicate the shot from the very first cover of the comics, in black and white too. And I love that shit. I think that was a really nice touch. And, yeah, I just think that's cool. Alright, so continuing, let's talk more about some of the other characters. Starting with, Master Splinter. In his version, he's pretty cool. I like him. Mostly, he just tells the Turtles to do things and teaches them lessons. He does have a few fights with them, which is pretty cool. But for the most part, he just kind of doesn't do much. His backstory was really cool, which was in this version, he's Monoyoshi again. Originally was a human and then was mutated to a rat. But when he was in Japan, he had a wife and daughter that was killed by the Shredder, and I think that's a cool backstory. So that just adds to, I don't know, it's cool. I like it. I can't explain why it's okay. Never mind. So yeah, then for the most part, Splinter doesn't do a whole lot with he trains the Turtles and all that, but he doesn't ever really go out and fight like the Turtles do. And then, but close to the end, April's like, wait, why aren't you helping them? You need to go fight. And then he's like, okay, fine. And then he does it then. But not till, like, the very end. But yeah, he's still pretty cool. And actually, that's good because it adds that depth to him. He has weakness. And I think that's what this show does really well, is all the characters have strengths and weaknesses. They feel like actual people. They have flaws and stuff. So April O'Neil, in this version, she's a teenager, kind of friends with the Turtles, and I think that works really well. Her dad was kidnapped by the Krang, so she doesn't exactly have a home, so it makes sense that she's hanging out with them a lot, especially since they're kind of friends with her at this point as well. And, yeah, she's just regular teenage girl. There's nothing bad about her, really. They did a good job with the character. Yeah, so she just feels like friends of the Turtles, and yeah, it worked really well, I think. So now let's talk about the villains a little bit. Shredder, the main villain, obviously, is very menacing, I think, in this version. He has a cool scar on his eye. I like the design of him, and his voice alone is enough to intimidate somebody. But in terms of what he actually does, he fights the Turtles like maybe twice in the entire first season. He doesn't do a whole lot of things himself. He's more instructs people to do things for him. So the people who actually do things are the two Bebop and Rocksteady henchmen type characters. In this version, there's a guy named Zever and Brad something. And what they did with these two characters is the one guy, Zever, is like this criminal guy, and he was in jail and the Shredder busted him out, and anyways, now he is working for the Shredder, and he also is basically in charge of the Purple Dragon gang, which shows up a few times in this series, but isn't that really important. And then the other guy, Brad, who was a ninja training in the Foot clan, and mostly leads them, sort of. And What's cool about these two is, unlike Bebop and Rocksteady, they both feel unique, and they both have a different way of looking at the situations. They start off human, and then later in the series they both get mutated, one into a dog and then one into a fish. So now they're even more like Bebop and Rocksteady, and they still have that argumenting thing that Bebop and Rocksteady kind of had, but they feel unique, and they even have backstories as well, which just makes them better characters overall. So good job with those two. Yeah, just kind of what the majority of the series is, taking ideas and improving them, or combining them with other ideas from different series. Now, they also have Baxter Stockman in this series as well. In this version, he's closer, but not. He's kind of in between. In the original 1980s version, he was just kind of this nerdy scientist who designed these mousers, and Shredder decided to take advantage of that, but he didn't really do much else after that. And then in the 2003 series, he designs the mousers and stuff, but then he builds this huge cyborg suit and tries to destroy everyone. And he actually is really smart and able to actually hold his own against the Turtles and the Shredder and stuff. And this series, he's kind of in between. He's this really nerdy scientist who nobody really takes seriously, but the Shredder uses him to build different things. Like, he does build the mousers at one point. He also tries building different mech suits to fight the Turtles and stuff like that. But for the most part, no one takes him seriously. He's kind of a joke villain, like, oh, it's just this guy, we don't have to try that hard, and he'll be easy to take care of and stuff. And eventually he does turn on the Shredder and the guys and stuff, but he doesn't really pose much of a threat, and they just kind of defeat him. But he's kind of fun. I think it's funny that they always forget his name and stuff like that. But I do prefer the 2003 version of this character. Although in this series, it's more of a lighter tone than the straight up darker and grittier version that the 2003 series was doing. In the 2012 one, it is a little bit more comedy based, and so it's fine. It's just if I had to pick one, I'd prefer the 2003 version. And then the other villain character that they introduce eventually is this girl ninja Karai. I remember she was in the 2003 series at one point, but not in the first season. And anyway, she's basically the Shredder's daughter, which is a really cool idea to start with. And for the most part, she's not exactly a villain, although she does work with the Shredder for the most part. She is more of an anti-hero, and she has this great chemistry with Leonardo. Always saying, "Hey, why do you have to listen to the rules all the time?" and stuff like that. And then Leonardo tries to have this good influence on her, as well as she tries to make him try more bad things. And I like that. That was fun. And yeah, they work well together, and I like that they address that they do sort of almost have a romantic type connection. I don't think they really touched on that in the 2003 series, at least not from what I remember. But she's not in the first season, so I don't need to really talk about it. Anyways, yeah, I like this character. She's fun. Anti-heroes are always interesting, so yeah, good job with that. It's kind of cool how there is all this big plethora of villains that they have in this series. I think that's good to have different villains they have instead of just reusing the same ones over and over again. The other thing that the series does is they have all these different other creatures and people that get mutated, and then, oh no, we gotta fight this mutant guy, and it feels kind of like they're just trying to sell toys and stuff like that for the most part. And it's just mostly just for like one episode, one character will show up and do stuff, but they're not really important to the series or anything like that. Okay, the other villains that they have is the Krang, which are more like the Ooptroms. But they take the it's like if the Ooptroms had the same sort of plan as Krang did from the original series. That's I think the most combined ideas from both of them. So in any case, Uh, okay, so anyways, the Krang have these robot bodies and stuff. So that's where a lot of the fighting comes from. The turtles are always fighting these robot guys, and they can chop them up however they want because they're robots, and it doesn't matter if you chop their heads off. And then basically what they're doing is they're mutating different things with the mutant gene. They're trying to figure out how to make Earth more like their planet or their Dimension X, which is like in the original series. And then eventually they do design a portal. They bring over a couple rock giants, which is kind of like in or stone people or whatever, I forget what they're called, which does happen in the 80s version. And then they also eventually have the Technodrome show up at like the end, which is like the original series as well. The Technodrome in the 2012 version is it looks more like the Death Star, so I think that's fine. But I think the original one was a little bit more unique, so I'll give it that. But it's still fun to see the Technodrome show up again and stuff. It's a cool looking thing, and yeah, it's fun. I really like how the Krang speak. They have this like hive brain, but they always speak in like the most awkward English possible. They'll be like, the ones known as the turtles are the ones that are in the place that is over there. Like, that's how they talk for the entire series. It's really funny, and they have some great like jokes around that and stuff. Like sometimes the other Krang won't even know what they're talking about, and they always refer to themselves as Krang. They usually speak in the third person as well as addressing other Krang as Krang as well. So it'll be like, Krang, you must show Krang where it's Krang to go, and it's really weird. But I can't really, it's hard to explain without, okay, never mind. You get the idea. It's kind of really awkward and jumbled. But it's a clever idea, because if an alien was trying to speak English, they wouldn't speak it perfect. Their grammar would probably be really bad. So that's, I think, why it makes sense. But it's really, really funny just to hear them say anything. So I like that in this version. Alright, for most of the episodes of the series, it's focused on just different characters that they meet in like one episode, and it's like, oh, we gotta defeat them for this one, and then okay, that's done, next episode. Sometimes it works really well, like when they're learning lessons, when the turtles are learning lessons from Splinter, but sometimes it just feels like they're doing a whole bunch of filler episodes where it's like, oh no, we gotta defeat this plant mutant in this episode, and oh no, there's this other mutant in this one, and stuff like that. But for the most part, a lot of it doesn't really feel relevant, and there is 26 episodes in the season, and most of them are sort of filler, but not really. They usually come across the Krang in every episode, but that doesn't exactly mean that the story is really continuing all that much. It's not really bad, it's actually fine, especially if you were watching the series on TV. When you're watching it, when you're trying to watch it all in a marathon, it just gets, it's like, come on, let's continue the story, let's actually do something. But when they do have things happen, it's done really well, so that's good. Alright, so overall, which series is the best? Well, the original series did start it all. Even though I'm not personally attached to that one, it did do a really good job of introducing the idea of having these characters in the main, introducing them to the mainstream. So it did do a good job with that. The 2003 series took a different take on it, made it darker, made it grittier, upped the action, and more, and yeah, changed the tone around and stuff, made it more like the comics. And I do have a personal attachment to that one, so I do really like that version as well. Now, the 2012 series takes ideas from both of them and puts it all together, and technically does improve on everything. The characters are definitely the best in the 2012 version, although there's a couple characters that I like from the 2003 version more, or from the original version more. But in general, the 2012 one technically is the superior show. However, I don't think it's fair to just say that that one is straight up the best. because it does just take ideas from the original series. And if the first two shows never happened, this show wouldn't have been as successful or done it as well. Because it's like, okay, I'm going to relate this to Batman. There's all different versions of Batman. There's the Christopher Nolan version, which is obviously more realistic and darker. There's the Adam West Batman, where he's more campy and cheesy. And there's all kinds of different writers and stuff that have their own take on the Batman characters, and that's great. But one version that I think truly takes the best ideas from all of the series and puts them into one is Batman the Animated Series from the 90s, and just does the definitive version of Batman, and does it really well. So I think the 2012 series of the Ninja Turtles is sort of like that. It takes ideas from the darker comics, the campier original show, and puts them all together and does them really well. All the characters are great, although some of them I don't like as much as other versions of the characters. It is basically the best version, and that's mostly just because it was able to take what worked and improve upon what was already there, kind of thing. Although I don't think that's bad at all. It's just you still have to give acknowledgement to the original series. I still really like the 2003 version, mostly from nostalgia, but I also just like how the action is so good, and as well as the pacing is, I think, better throughout the series whenever they have the few episode story arc, which I think is a lot of fun to want to keep watching it. So the two later series are, I think, the best, but if you really want to say, oh, which one's the best, I'm going to have to say the 2012 one, just because it does improve upon basically everything. In any case, that's my review of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Surprisingly, none of the shows were really bad. They were all actually pretty good. And, yeah, thanks for watching. I recommend basically all of them, and yeah, subscribe. The end.